Monster Hunter Wilds gave us something brand new, weapon swapping mid-hunt. But what's the point? Is this the coolest feature ever, or just a gimmick? I've got a few thoughts on both sides of the fence, and maybe you could let me know what you think or any thoughts I forgot to mention. I've made a handful of builds that are all about weapon swapping, using it to get fun synergies or combos to work. And after using weapon swapping a bunch, here's some reasons why I think it adds a lot to Monster Hunter. I have a build specifically built to put a monster to sleep with one weapon, then swap to a greatsword for a massive true charge / wake up hit. This is a fun way to maximize sleep damage, and it works pretty well. And this is essentially just a sleep setup, as I use the sleep weapon 95% of the hunt. I spec the greatsword to only be full damage, because I'm only using it for a wake up hit. It's a fun set, and it makes wake up hits on sleep builds feel substantial. But is this enough to make weapon swapping a game changer? Foray might be the best reason for weapon swapping. Foray triggers when you proc paralysis or poison on a monster. It gives you bonus raw attack and affinity, a potent combo, while the status ailment is on the monster. And the best part is, Foray uses the word or, meaning it will trigger off of either status ailment. So my setup has both weapons on my build be a status weapon, one poison and one paralysis. This lets me trigger Foray more often in a hunt and get the big damage benefits from it. This works well because of how status ailments are triggered on monsters. When you inflict a status ailment on a monster, like poison for example, in order to inflict that status ailment again, you need to do more damage with the poison weapon than you did before to poison the monster again. Meaning every subsequent status ailment infliction is harder to achieve, which also means Foray loses a lot of value the longer the hunt goes. But if you have two weapons, one poison and one paralysis, you could swap weapons after the status ailment wears off on a monster and start trying to inflict the other status ailment. I love doing this, and it works particularly well with the new Sakura Tide event armor. Foray is a great reason to have weapon swapping, but I've got a couple more ideas too. If you're playing on your own, having a couple weapons to mix things up in hunts, as well as capitalize on monster weaknesses without going back to your tent, is pretty all right. Having a severing weapon at the ready for tail cuts, then be able to swap to anything else to finish the hunt, is always a fun way to get extra parts, especially for all the blunt and ranged weapon mains out there. I mean, imagine a scenario where a wound has appeared on the top of a monster and your little tiny dual blades just can't reach the wound. You could have a bow as your secondary weapon and use the focus strike to pop the wound to grant you a potential knockdown, but also a guaranteed extra monster part drop. That still begs the question though, why not just run bow all the time? But variety is the spice of life, and playing multiple weapons is a great way to enjoy your time in Monster Hunter. I think that this was a fantastic change in general, but it does work really well with weapon swapping too. I can wear the same armor, but have a variety of weapons to equip to that armor, and it'll work. I do think we need some more build variety down the road though. Builds are starting to get pretty samey because of a lack of build variety available in Wilds. But I believe over time, with more monsters being added, we're gonna have some fun decisions to make in our builds. But having weapon and armor skills separate allows for weapon swapping to be a thing, at least more easily. But how do you feel about armor and weapon skills being separated? Was it a good move overall? Or does it make builds feel too slimmed down for you? I like the separation, but I like it because it's different than it was before, and I like trying new things out. I do feel, the longer I've played Wilds, that we need a bunch more options for skills though, especially for weapons, as my builds have gotten pretty similar over time. Wilds has a big emphasis on going into a region and just hunting monsters back to back to back. I love this change to the Monster Hunter formula. I did this in the Guided Lands often in Iceborne, and it works a lot better in Wild. It's only going to get better as we get more monsters added to the game as well. Heck, I just posted a video where I hunted 100 monsters in the Scarlet Forest back to back, and I had a great time hunting without having to stop to go to a quest board or get some food in between each hunt. It's a very enjoyable experience, and like the video shows as well, a very rewarding experience with how much loot you get to take back with you. Going on a long expedition with lots of hunts is more enjoyable with some variety, and a second weapon allows for that. No need to go back to camp for anything. Just swap weapons and keep going until you want to fully swap builds. Not everyone plays multiple weapons, but even running two of the same weapon but with different elements or statuses or just builds in general still makes for a fun way to spice up the long expeditions of hunting a bunch of monsters back to back. A quick side note here, by the way, if you happen to be a Capcom employee and you're watching this, I miss having the reward screen after doing a bunch of hunts in a row back to back. It was fun to see everything level up and see pages and pages of rewards. Could we do something in the future of Wilds where we can have a list of all the previous rewards, levels, monsters hunted, etc., that we could just pull up and see. Maybe a hunting history screen that pops up as soon as we return to base camp or something. Just ask. But these are just a couple reasons for weapon swapping, and none of them are super compelling. Maybe weapon swapping is just a gimmick. Here's a few reasons why I think that's the case. Firstly, there's no incentive. When weapon swapping was shown in trailers, I was drooling because I thought there had to be some reason to weapon swap in the middle of a hunt. Maybe armor sets would have bonuses for equipping 2 specific weapons for a big boost. For example, like a set that has a charge blade and a switch axe equipped, maybe you'd get bonuses to your files because both the charge blade and the switch axe are file weapons. Or maybe if you swapped weapons, you'd get a quick bonus to some attack speed or something just to mix things up. And then we got the game, and there was nothing. No reason to weapon swap, like, at all. It looks cool, sure, but I was shocked that there wasn't a clear armor skill or talisman or something that was made just for weapon swapping. And now I think most people aren't using weapon swapping for anything meaningful at all. Before Wilds was released, we had trailers showing weapon swapping, and I kept thinking, wow, Monster Hunter showing reasons for its players to learn more than just one weapon. And that was huge for me, because I'm one of those people who can't just play one weapon. I get bored with it. I played every weapon for a huge amount of time in Iceborne, and now Monster Hunter was adding a feature to have players try another weapon. And then shortly before the release of Wilds, the Monster Hunter content managers did a campaign where they deemed specific content creators as weapon captains. For example, Uno Hunter was crowned the Hunting Horn Captain, and Monster Hunter Wilds promoted his content for players interested in learning the Hunting Horn. And Miss 5000 Watts was deemed the Bow Captain, and Monster Hunter Wilds promoted her content in the same way. I think this is a really cool idea, and I love that it exists, and I'm proud of those who were deemed captains, but it felt so opposite of what I thought weapon swapping was going for. Monster Hunter players have a thing about committing to a weapon, to the point of identifying themselves with a weapon. I'm not one of those people. It's just not my thing. But it got to the point where my tier list video, where I went through all the weapons in Monster Hunter World and Iceborne and rated them, I got absolutely destroyed in the comments by bow mains because I ranked it so poorly compared to other weapons. Wake up call for me. I didn't realize how deeply these things matter to people. The point here is, does weapon swapping change the idea of having weapon mains? Is this a good thing for Monster Hunter? In my opinion, it is, but I'm in the minority. I don't identify with the weapon. I play them all. Is weapon swapping just a gimmick that people won't really do anything with because maining a weapon in Monster Hunter is a thing, and it has been for a long time? Or is weapon swapping trying to squash the idea of maining a weapon? Who knows? Even if there was an incentive and identity didn't matter, I think swapping weapons is still too slow. It's nice to have, but there's not a huge reason to do it. And the time it takes is too long while you're hunting. When you're chasing a monster to another area, there's time, sure, but that's when I really don't care whether I'm swapping or not. I would love to see some kind of weapon swapping like Rise did with switch skills, where you could do them on the fly mid-hunt pretty quickly. Have your Sacred launch the weapon to you faster than it takes to swap on its back. Put it on cooldown even, so you can't do it often. And now we have something you can build around. How it stands now, calling my Sacred and the animation speed to swap the weapon, then jump off the Sacred, it's just too long. I think these thoughts on whether the weapon swapping mechanic being a gimmick matters, and is worth thinking about specifically because we don't have the full Wilds game yet. There's still more content being released, though I highly doubt there'll be a change to weapon swapping with these updates. But we can't forget about the Master Rank expansion for Wilds. There's potential in the expansion that weapon swapping gets some big changes, or maybe just big additions that make weapon swapping a core part of the Wilds experience. Just like the Clutch Claw changed world in a huge, though controversial way, weapon swapping might be the gimmick that's used in the expansion for Wilds. Just think about this for a second. What if we were able to handle different phases of a hunt with different weapons? Maybe we have a hunt where the monster's weak to severing damage, but the phase changes and now blunt weapons are going to be the damage type to go for. Having the ability to swap in the hunt is much better than going back to camp. Maybe even just an element type to swap to would be good. Weapon swapping would have been a great mechanic for Elatrion in Iceborne. Wait! Elatrion confirmed in Wilds because of weapon swapping? Maybe down the road we'll get skills on weapons or armors that give bonuses when you swap weapons. It could be just about anything, and people would try it more. I would love to see something like attack speed for a short amount of time, as attack speed isn't really in Monster Hunter. There's a whole creative space to play around with, and I'd love to see what Capcom comes up with. Maybe weapon swapping is just one step And the next step will be armor swapping. This feels much less likely, but we can't forget that we're playing a game where we hunt dragons and dinosaurs with giant weapons. Things feeling realistic aren't really such a big deal when we're hunting dinosaurs and dragons. Who knows what could be on the way, but armor swapping in addition to weapon swapping would open up a ton of ideas for combinations. There's my thoughts, but I would love to hear what you think. How do you think weapon swapping could change the way that we hunt? Thanks for watching, and happy hunting.